The chamber of the ether Concord was built to intimidate. It spanned 3 kilometers in diameter, a coliseum of light and stone where hundreds of species gathered to decide the fate of star systems. The air was heavy with ozone from the translation grids, and every seat hummed with whispered translations in tongues both familiar and alien. At the lowest circle, where the accused usually stood, Commander Ryn Calder waited. His uniform was deliberately plain, navy fabric, 1 silver insignia, no medals. The Concord demanded humility from petitioners, and Ryn gave them only that. He stood with his hands behind his back, spine straight, eyes level. From above, voices descended like rain. The humans expand unchecked. They ignore boundaries. They conceal their true nature. The last voice carried, resonant and sharp. Archon Threxel of the Veiled Dominion leaned forward from his obsidian dais, crystalline horns glinting under the dome's glow. His species radiated menace. Their bodies were lattices of living crystal, refracting light with every subtle movement. When Threxel spoke, it was less speech than the grind of mountains. "Your colonies defend themselves with bare hands," Threxel said. "Our records show Dominion troops crushed, armor shattered, weapons bent as if struck by storms. And yet you insist you are fragile. Tell us, human, how many lies does your species weave before the Concord cuts the thread?" The chamber quieted. All eyes, compound, luminous, slit-pupilled, turned to Ryn. He stepped forward into the circle of light. "With respect, Archon, the men and women you sent to raid Kestrel Colony weren't prepared to face farmers who refused to die quietly." His voice carried no tremor. "Desperation is not divinity." Ripples of reaction spread. Some aliens hissed, others murmured agreement. The speaker, an aged creature draped in pale silks, raised a hand. "Order! Archon Threxel, present your evidence." A holoscreen bloomed in the air. Images spiraled across it, Dominion troopers sprawled broken in dust, helmets dented inward, gauntlets twisted like foil. Beside them, unarmored humans stood, bloodied but alive. One clutched a shattered blade in bare fists, another had driven a farming tool through powered armor. The feeds ended with silence and smoke. "Farmers?" Threxel's crystalline body flared, scattering shards of light. "Or dormant gods pretending to sleep?" Gasps fluttered through the tears. The phrase struck like a spark on dry tinder. War gods. A myth older than the Concord itself. Every child had heard the warnings, that long before peace, a species had burned worlds for sport. Few knew the myths were human in origin. Fewer still believed they were true. Ryn kept his expression still, though heat rose in his chest. "We buried those wars centuries ago. Humanity has no interest in becoming what we once were." Threxel's frowns of light narrowed into a sharp point. "Words. Yet blood remembers." The speaker gestured again. "Commander Calder, the Concord requires clarity. Are these accounts exaggerated?" "No," Ryn said simply. Murmurs swelled. He let them build before continuing. "Humans fought. They survived. That is what we do. But nothing more. There was no awakening, no mythical transformation. Just men and women protecting their families. And snapping armored soldiers in half?" Threxel's tone dripped with contempt. "Because you underestimated them." A silence cut the chamber. Even Ryn felt it, the weight of truth balanced on a knife. Threxel smiled, a terrible grinding of crystal. He had baited the trap, and Ryn had stepped inside. "Then let us prove it," Threxel said. "If humans are harmless, let them face trial. Not of words, of survival. Send them into the crucible. If they return unchanged, their innocence stands. If they awaken," he spread crystalline hands, "then the galaxy will know what you hide." The crucible. Ryn's jaw tightened. It was no arena, no simulation. It was a fractured moon on the edge of the Concord, riddled with storms and predators. No one returned without scars. Many didn't return at all. Delegates erupted in overlapping voices. "This is barbaric. It is necessary. Let them prove themselves." The speaker's crest dimmed, a sign of weary resignation. "Commander Calder, Humanity must answer. Ryn's throat was dry, but his voice did not waver. We do not fear trials. He let the words fall like stone into water, rippling through the chamber. But remember this, you will learn nothing of war gods on that moon. You will only learn how hard humans fight when forced. Threxel's crystalline body pulsed, victory radiating in his refracted glow. Then it is settled. When the chamber adjourned, Ryn walked the corridors alone until footsteps caught him. Ani Shay, his adjutant, fell into step beside him. She wore the same plain uniform, her dark eyes sharp beneath a fringe of cropped hair. You shouldn't have agreed, she said quietly. The crucible isn't a trial. It's an execution wrapped in ceremony. They wanted fear, Ryn replied. If I refused, they'd say we hid from truth. Better to face it head on. Ani's voice dropped lower. And if something happens? If they're right? Ryn stopped. For a moment, the hum of the Concord's corridors filled the silence between them. He thought of the images: bent rifles, broken troopers, farmers standing over bodies with wide, uncomprehending eyes. He had seen that kind of aftermath before. On battlefields where adrenaline and rage did more than any weapon. Where men became something else for a heartbeat. I don't know, he admitted. Ani's jaw clenched. Then we're walking into their story, not ours. Maybe, Ryn said. But sometimes you only rewrite myths by surviving them. That night, reports bled across the Concord's networks. War gods stirring on human colonies. Dominion troops crushed by barehanded defenders. Fear spread faster than fact. Delegates whispered in private halls. Merchants adjusted routes away from human sectors. Children asked their tutors why humans pretended to be weak. On Kestrel Colony, survivors sat in stunned silence. Some stared at their own hands as if they belonged to strangers. One man wept, insisting he had torn through armor though he remembered nothing but rage. Scientists debated endlessly, but no theory fit neatly. And in his quarters, Ryn lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His body ached with old scars, his mind replaying every word spoken under the dome. Dormant war gods. Was it only myth, or memory waiting to surface? He closed his eyes, but no peace came. Only the faint echo of a voice from long ago, an instructor on Earth, warning young cadets about humanity's inheritance. Asterisk. We are built for peace. But make no mistake, war sleeps in our marrow. The question is not whether it wakes. The question is when. Asterisk. The crucible was not a world so much as a wound. Once a moon, it had been split by gravitational tides, leaving a jagged sphere wrapped in storms. Shards of stone drifted in loose orbit, colliding and scraping like teeth in a restless jaw. The Concord had designated it a proving ground centuries ago, a place where civilization sent warriors to test endurance. Few entered willingly. Fewer returned unchanged. Ryn Calder stood at the edge of the deployment ramp of the Wayfarer, visor retracted, eyes fixed on the fractured horizon. Lightning forked between cliffs that floated free of the surface, arcs of pale fire bridging canyons that weren't there yesterday. The crucible shifted with every orbit, gravity twisting, storms folding in on themselves. Behind him, Anisha strapped her harness tight, checking her weapon with practiced hands. I still say this is theater, she muttered. They want blood on display, not answers. They'll get neither, Ryn said. His voice was calm, but his chest carried the weight of what was unsaid. Kestrel Colony had already shifted the debate. Survivors there whispered of impossible feats, mothers breaking Dominion armor to shield children, elders tearing weapons from trained soldiers. None of them remembered how. It wasn't skill. It wasn't training. It was something older. Something sleeping. The ramp hissed. Heat and dust rushed in. Ryn led the way onto fractured stone. Their small team moved through jagged ravines, shadows stretching like claws across the surface. Kaida, their navigator, scanned readings with a frown. Gravity's erratic. North Ridge pulls harder than the valley. Keep your center of mass low or you'll tumble. Voles, broad and silent, carried the heavy gear. His breathing rasped in calms as he shifted weight against invisible tides. Something's watching us, he said quietly. He was right. The crucible birthed predators shaped by storms, six-legged lizards with glassy hides, winged serpents that rode lightning arcs. They stalked newcomers like instinctive executioners. The first attack came fast. A serpent of light and scale crashed from a cliff, its body snapping like a whip. Ani fired, bolts scattering harmlessly against its glassy hide. Voles swung the pack into its path, knocking it sideways. It struck again, jaws wide, arcs of static spraying sparks across stone. Ryn didn't think. He moved. The serpent lunged for Ani. Ryn caught its jaws mid-strike. Muscle should have failed him, bone should have snapped, but instead he held it, boots gouging stone. Heat surged up his arms, his pulse thundering louder than the storm. He wrenched, and the serpent's jaw cracked with a sound like shattering crystal. The creature recoiled, hissing, then slithered into the storm, retreating as if struck by something far larger than a man. Silence followed. Ani stared, chest heaving. Ryn, you shouldn't have been able to do that. He released his grip slowly, flexing fingers that trembled. His gloves were scorched, but his skin beneath felt unburned, humming with strange vitality. It was adrenaline, he said, though the words rang hollow. Voles set the pack down carefully. No adrenaline snaps lightning serpents in half. Kaita's scanner beeped erratically. Commander, your vitals just spiked beyond baseline. Heart rate, neural activity, like you're running 3 times over capacity. Ryn adjusted his rifle, forcing calm into his tone. Log it. Move on. But inside, unease nod. Hours passed. They crossed valleys where gravity tugged sideways, forcing them to crawl along walls. They fought through flocks of shrieking avians that tore metal with their beaks. And each time, when danger struck hardest, Ryn felt it, the hum under his skin, the surge in his veins. At first he resisted. He forced himself to fight like a soldier, measured and disciplined. But when the storms closed in and a pack of lizards charged with obsidian claws, instinct overrode reason. He met them head-on. His movements blurred, his strikes broke bones through carapace, and his voice roared louder than thunder. When the dust cleared, the creatures lay broken. His team stood back, weapons lowered, eyes on him rather than the enemy. Ani's voice was low. It's happening to you, isn't it? Ryn didn't answer. He wiped blood from his knuckles and kept walking. By the second night, they found shelter in the hollow of a split mountain. Lightning crackled through cracks in the ceiling. The air smelled of ozone and ash. They lit ration burners, but no one ate. Kaita broke the silence first. The Dominion recorded the farmers at Kestrel. Said they didn't remember their strength afterward. Maybe they were lying. Maybe they hid it. No, Ani said. Her eyes never left Ryn. They didn't lie. They couldn't explain it because they didn't understand it. Just like he doesn't. Vole's heavy hands clenched. If it's true, if we're carrying, whatever this is, what happens when the Concord sees it? They'll fear us, Ani said. They already do, Kaita muttered. Ryn finally spoke. His voice was steady, though his chest felt like a furnace. This isn't about fear. It's about control. If we can hold it, if we can prove it doesn't control us, then maybe. He trailed off. Words failed. Ani leaned forward. And if you can't control it? Ryn's eyes met hers. In their depths, a flicker of something burned, bright, ancient, undeniable. Then humanity becomes what they always suspected. No one spoke after that. The crucible storms grew worse as they pressed deeper. Gravity inverted in pockets, pulling rivers skyward. Creatures stalked them in packs, coordinated as if driven by some greater will. Every clash pulled more from Ryn, every strike revealed strength beyond reason. By the 4th day, his body bore no wounds. Not one. Where claws had raked, flesh healed before blood dried. His team saw it. They whispered, not accusations but all. Then came the ambush. Dominion dropships screamed through the storm, gunfire shredding rock. Threxel hadn't waited for proof, he had come to manufacture it. Dozens of crystalline troopers poured out, weapons glowing with plasma charge. "Scatter!" Ryn shouted. Bolts tore craters where they had stood. Ani and Kaida returned fire, ducking behind shattered stone. Voles swung heavy ordnance, blasting through the first wave. But they were outnumbered, overwhelmed. A trooper struck Ani down, blade spearing her shoulder. She fell, gasping, pinned to the ground. Ryn saw it, saw the blood, heard her cry, and something in him broke. The storm muted. Time slowed. Heat roared through him like a furnace opening. His vision bled gold. He was moving before thought caught him. One stride carried him across meters. His hand closed around the trooper's weapon, shattering it in his grip. Another strike caved in crystalline armor. He tore through them like paper, each movement precise, unstoppable. Weapons bent, shields collapsed, bodies scattered like glass shards. The Dominion ranks faltered. For the first time, their crystalline faces showed something like fear. Ryn stood in the storm's center, breath steady, eyes burning with unnatural fire. Ani stared up at him, pale from pain but transfixed. "You're not just fighting," she whispered. "You're becoming." Ryn looked down at his hands. They trembled, not with weakness but with power that begged to be unleashed further. He clenched them into fists. "No. I won't let it own me." But in his chest the fire laughed. By the time the storm cleared, the Dominion ships were wrecks. Survivors fled into the void, carrying tales of what they had seen. A human who fought like a god. In the silence after, Kaida approached cautiously. "The Concord will hear of this. They'll call you proof. They'll call us all proof." Ryn looked at the broken battlefield, the glow fading from his veins. "Then let them. The question is not whether we are war gods." He glanced at Ani, then at the others. "The question is whether we can choose not to be." Above them, the storm cracked open, revealing stars. For the first time, Ryn felt their light not as distant fire, but as witnesses to what had awoken. And what would not go back to sleep. The Concord chamber was in chaos before Ryn Calder even stepped inside. News of the Crucible had outrun him. Dominion survivors had spread their testimony across every channel. They had spoken of a human who bent weapons barehanded, who shattered armored troopers as if they were glass. Whispers became accusations. Accusations turned to fear. Now the chamber seethed with it. Delegates argued in overlapping tongues, demanding humanity's exile, demanding humanity's execution, demanding humanity's immediate disarmament. The speaker's calls for order rang hollow, swallowed by noise. When the doors opened and Ryn entered, silence followed like a tide receding. Ani and Kaida flanked him, their uniforms scorched and patched. Voles followed behind, one arm in a sling. They carried no weapons. They didn't need them. Ryn walked to the rostrum, boots echoing against stone. He could feel the weight of 100 eyes, 100 species, waiting for him to confirm or deny the impossible. Archon Threxel rose, crystalline horns flaring with refracted light. "Behold!" he thundered. "The myth walks among us. I warned you. Dormant war gods hiding in flesh. They woke on the Crucible. They will wake everywhere. And when they do, none of us will survive their hunger for war." His words struck like hammer blows, and fear surged in the chamber. Ryn let it crest, let it settle. Then he spoke. "You call us gods. We are not." His voice was steady, deliberate. "We are human. Flesh and blood, breakable as any of you. What you saw was not divinity. It was survival." Threxel's crystalline body shuddered with fury. "Survival? You slaughtered battalions. You carried storms in your veins." Ryn met his gaze. "Because you left us no choice." The speaker leaned forward, voice fragile but firm. "Commander Calder, the Concord cannot ignore what has been witnessed. If humans carry such potential, then every colony is a blade at our throats. What do you say to that?" Ryn paused. This was the knife's edge. Every word mattered. "I say you mistake power for destiny. Yes, something stirs in us when pushed to the edge. Call it inheritance, call it curse. But it is not who we choose to be. Every day, humanity chooses restraint. Every day, we live beside you in peace. Ask yourselves this: if we truly hungered for war, would there be a Concord left to meet in? Murmurs rippled. Some nodded, uneasy but thoughtful. Others recoiled, still afraid. Threxel seized the hesitation. Do not be deceived. They feign restraint until they gather strength. I will not gamble the Dominion's survival on human mercy. I say we strike now. Burn Earth, shatter their colonies, scour them before they awaken fully. Gasps filled the chamber. Ani stiffened at Ryn's side, hand twitching toward a weapon she didn't carry. Vol's jaw tightened. Kaida muttered under her breath. There it is, the real plan. The speaker's crest dimmed, signaling despair. Archon Threxel, you propose extermination? Yes, Threxel growled. The only path to safety. Ryn stepped forward, fists tightening on the rostrum. No. The only path to fear. You cloak your hunger for conquest in words of safety. You want us destroyed because you cannot control us. Because for the first time, you've seen a force you cannot bend. The chamber held its breath. Threxel's crystalline body flared, light scattering like shattered glass. You dare? Always, Ryn said. The attack came swift. Dominion warships uncloaked above Ether Prime, black hulls blotting the stars. Sirens wailed as planetary defenses scrambled. The chamber shook under the first bombardment. Delegates panicked, some fleeing, others shouting for retaliation. Threxel raised his crystalline arms. See? Already they bring ruin! But outside, the truth was clear. The Dominion fleet had not come to protect the Concord. They had come to burn it, to create chaos, to frame humanity as the spark. Ryn turned to Ani. Get them to safety. I'll hold the chamber. She caught his arm. Ryn, if you let it out again, you might not come back. He looked at her, steady. If I don't, none of us will. Her grip loosened, reluctant but resolute. Then come back anyway. The bombardment intensified. Windows cracked, stone groaned. Ryn strode to the center of the chamber, heart pounding. He felt the fire again, the hum in his bones. The crucible had awakened it, but now it rose willingly, not in blind rage but in answer to need. His eyes burned gold. The chamber lights dimmed against the glow. Delegates gasped, some falling to their knees, others backing away. Threxel froze, crystalline body trembling with sudden recognition, not triumph, but dread. Ryn raised his hand. Outside, the Dominion fleet's bombardment faltered. Weapons stuttered, then bent as if crushed by invisible force. Hulls twisted, engines screamed, ships collapsing inward like toys in a child's grip. In moments, the sky cleared, wreckage scattering into harmless debris. The chamber shook with silence. Every delegate stared at him, not with rage, not with hatred, but with awe. Ryn lowered his hand. His voice was calm, controlled. This is what you fear. And this is what you do not understand. We do not unleash it lightly. We do not revel in it. We endure it. We control it. That is what makes us human. Threxel staggered forward, his crystalline form flickering with cracks. Monster, he spat. You are monsters. Ryn looked at him, unblinking. No. We are what you hoped we would never be, equal. You cannot scare us into chains. You cannot burn us into silence. Humanity will not kneel. The speaker rose, ancient eyes wet with awe. Then the Concord must decide not from fear, but from truth. Humanity stands not as prey or predator, but as partner. The chamber roared, not with panic, but with thunderous assent. Delegates struck their benches, species of every shape raising voices together. The tide had turned. When the session ended, Ryn stood with his crew in the quiet of the outer halls. Ani leaned against the wall, pale but alive. Kaida exhaled hard, tension bleeding away. Voles adjusted his sling with a grim smile. You just forced the galaxy to bow, Kaida said. No, Ryn replied softly. I forced them to see. Ani studied him, eyes sharp. And if it happens again? If more of us awaken? Ryn met her gaze. Then we remember this day. Not for the power, but for the choice. We are not gods because we can destroy. We are gods because we choose when not to. Outside, the stars burned clear, free of dominion shadow. For the first time, Ryn felt the light as promise, not threat. Humanity's inheritance had awakened. But so had their will to wield it with restraint. And that was a power greater than war.